Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we're meeting around the country this afternoon, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and especially to those Indigenous people that are with us this evening. I acknowledge your continuous unbroken custodianship of the land upon which we're meeting. Let me begin by doing a little bit of housekeeping. Your microphone will be on mute and your video will be turned off. At the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A box for questions. The way that we're going to work today is we're going to have two companies talk about their product and we'll ask some questions. If you have some questions, you can put those into the question and A session, and then someone will come back and answer them for you. There's also a chat box at the side that you can speak to either me as the host or all of the panelists at once. At the end of the webinar, you'll be redirected to a page that shows you where you can download all the presentations and you can see the contact details for the speakers. I'm getting a couple of people raising a hand, so I don't really know what that means, because I can no longer see the screen for the webinar. Maybe Jeanette, if you can have a look at that for me, that'd be great. A quick introduction to Edugrowth. Edugrowth exists today because of the vision and leadership shown by our founding partners. I'd like to thank specifically Charles Sturt University, Deakin University, Griffith University, La Trobe, Monash and Navitas, who have came together in 2016 to help us to build this entity. These founders saw the opportunity that exists in Australia to be a global leader in education technology. We have a byline, which is we're about connect, collaborate and accelerate. We want to bring all parts of the ecosystem together so that we can grow the economic input and output from Australia's education technology sector. Today, I'm going to hand over in a moment to our first company who's going to speak. We're going to have two companies speak to you, and then we'll have some questions, and then finally we'll keep going through that process and we'll conclude at about just after 5 o'clock. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to hand over to Ben Hallett from Vigo.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ben Hallett. I am the co-founder and CEO of Vigo. And at Vigo, we help prepare your student support services for online delivery. So when it comes to the student support landscape, there's typically a myriad of support services that a higher education institution is trying to surround that student with to ensure their success. That can range from everything from your academic support, be that staff to staff or staff to student or student to student. It can include the personal and professional mentoring, be that your first year mentoring program or an international student mentoring program or a conversation program, all the way through to your advisory staff that you have for students, particularly in the current landscape, mental health officers or career advisors or just faculty advisors. And when it comes to this landscape, it can often, the way that these programs are typically run are more traditionally, which means that they are locked to face-to-face delivery. And in the current climate, a lot of these support services are having to be shut down and students are losing access to this support. So at Vigo, this is what we do. We help institutions take that myriad of support services and put them onto our mobile platform, our web platform, which we brand to be yours, and make them accessible and flexibly available to your students. Now, we work with everything from handling peer-to-peer, class-specific tutoring, through to broad-based subject help, be that English, math, writing feedback. We handle your full suite of mentoring programs from your first year student mentoring program all the way through to more targeted programs like Mature Age or LGBTIQ. We can do both one-to-one and online group sessions. So if you think about PASS or peer-assisted learning situations, and then access to advisors, and particularly in the current landscape, we think one of the most important services to maintain during this time is access to counsellors, mental health officers, and university advisors. And we can also link out to other support channels that you may have. So the value for students is that We take all of your support services and we make them available at the fingertips of students, be that during hours or after hours, and be that online or in person. So the student will gain access to your space, which will brand to be yours, and they can access support services via in-app chat or booking a face-to-face session in person, or in this context, an online session through video or within the platform. And most importantly, the platform houses that full relationship. So the university has visibility of all of the student interactions and what's going on. The key value that we hear from universities is that we help make their programs much more flexible, and we do offer that asynchronous support. We are able to get support programs to be more personalized to the students. We work with each of our partners to really tailor our software to you guys. You get our student success staff, you get our partner success staff, and we're able to deploy these services within 2 weeks. And you get the insights of everything that's happening across the board so that you have quality and you have control. We are already working with an amazing set of existing partners, and we're having great results. So the average student is reporting 98% satisfaction with their support services. 83% of students are reporting feeling less stress. We're seeing 800% increase in student engagement for support programs when we take them online. And half of our activity is happening after hours. And that's it from me. So if you're interested in taking support services online, particularly during this current climate, please reach out. I'm more than happy to talk. Thank you very much. Now I'll hand over to Shishi Trong from Practera.
Thanks, Ben. I'll just share my screen. Fantastic. So thanks again, Ben, and thanks to the EduGrowth team for this opportunity to speak and present briefly today. So my name is Shishi, and I am the Executive Director for Customer Success here at Practera, based in Sydney. Practera helps education providers deliver experiential learning programs, which equip students and professionals for the future of work. These programs include team-based projects, internships, skills credentialing, work simulations, accelerators, and mentoring programs. We all know that the current climate and the current situation is not normal for our customers, for our students, and for us. And we are working rapidly with our university customers and government customers to scale up borderless, online, and authentic experiential learning programs to students and industry partners. In recent weeks, we have supported students like Mei Xing Lin from UNSW, who is currently stuck in her home province in Eastern China. She was actually voted the most valuable team player as part of the team-based project that they've been undertaking. Another example, we are supporting students like Yi Su from Monash, featured here in The Australian, completing her team consulting project whilst self-isolating. However, beyond our current international students, we know that we now need to think about powerful and positive online experiential learning for all students. So in general, we know that experiential learning is increasingly important. To navigate the future of work, students and professionals need to upskill and reskill faster than ever before. Universities are actually seeking to deploy more of such programs like those on your screen, and industry partners are increasingly involved, and this needs to be deployed at larger scales and more systematically. However, we do know that the challenge with experiential learning is that it has distinctive needs. It is traditionally relied on face-to-face interaction, and of course, at times can be complex and costly to deliver and quality assure at scale. So this is where we come in. So Practera seeks to help educators deliver online experiential learning in 3 key ways. One is through our Practera platform, which helps educators to build, deploy and manage user-friendly apps to support different types of experiential learning programs. Number 2, using Practera, we ourselves directly manage a national digital projects network across 5 states, supporting real projects for thousands of students and connects hundreds of employers to more than 20 university customers, and these can be deployed in blended or purely online models. And thirdly, our team works with customers to design and support custom solutions based on our customers' needs. We're very much proud to deliver proven results for our customers, both nationally and globally. And nationally, we are working with more than 50% of Australian universities. And you can see some of the benefits that we have delivered to our customers. In addition to, in partnership with our customers, we have won a number of awards and grants as well. So Procterra is currently working very proactively with our customers to really deliver borderless online programs. By way of just a few examples, UNSW and us, we've co-designed a range of online project experiences which have been deployed to more than 1,000 students, 80% less costs than face-to-face models, and achieving comparable quality metrics. We've helped Global Victoria deliver an offshore market research program, linking thousands of students with 70 exporters with 95% exporter satisfaction, and in addition, creating 350,000 positive social media impressions. We've enabled Boston University to increase the quality and scale of its transnational global health practicum, which sees students actually linked with development projects in developing countries across Africa, Latin America, and Asia. And just finally, last week, StudyPerth actually launched its online employability portal called Prosper, available to all 50,000 WA international students, which incorporates 7 Procterra-powered experiences. So I just wanted to cap off there by saying, if any of that is of interest, of course, please reach out to a member of our senior team. David, I'll throw back to you.
Thanks very much, Shishi. Just for the audience here, if you do have some questions of either Ben or Shishi, you can put them into the Q&A box. We've got a couple of questions here that I will begin with, but if you've got any more, by all means, put them into the Q&A box and I'll ensure that we get to them either in this session or at the end here. Ben, we have a question for you, and the question really is around academic integrity. It's obviously, oh, I don't know where you've gone. Your video has gone off for some reason. So the question is really around academic integrity. How do you ensure that when you've got students working peer-to-peer?
Yes, definitely. So we have a 5-level approach to when it comes to academic integrity. The first step is that we take the services as you have them already in the institution and we mirror those. So that means, particularly it means we mirror your training. We can even use your training of the mentors, of the peer tutors as well, to really set them up for success in their interactions. And then on top of what you currently do to support your programs, we then add all of the technology to really map out the full relationship, to really look over the top of it and make sure that all the interactions are going well. So for instance, in the student-to-student communications, we have some keyword analysis. We're picking up what students are talking about. Are there any red flags there? And if so, we have an elevation process with the university. But typically we see quite low escalations, to be honest.
Fantastic. Shishi, we've had a question here about, can you give us a practical example of an experiential learning program, and at the same time explain to us what you mean by experiential learning?
Yeah, so just by way of a definition of experiential learning, that's really based off the Kolb experiential learning cycle, whereby students or learners take a piece of learning content, consume and engage with that, apply that in a real world context, have reflection as part of a reflective learning exercise, and also enhance learning through feedback. And that feedback cycle and reflection is really what is embedded at the heart of our Procterra experiential learning platform. In terms of a practical, so I'll give you a couple of examples. So one of them is our digital projects network example. So we connect student teams. So we partner with universities who are our pipeline provider of students. We team them up and match them to a client project to deliver under our 2-week nano model a value add deliverable for that client organization. So they're taking some learning content that has been structured and built into our Procterra platform and apply that supportive content into their project, which is supplied by a real world client, and that is in response to a real world business project.
Can I just go back for a second? I just want to connect something for me, and that is, how do you connect what you're doing in the classroom and what students are doing in essentially in their lectures and their tutors through this project to their employability? Do you have like a mapping of the skills that the students are using?
Yeah, so what we tend to do is this is really focused around some of the outcomes around the soft skills. So what we have seen is, of course, that in the classrooms, students are learning a mix of generally quite technical skills, and for them to step into a real world environment is apply some of that technical knowledge, and on top of that develop and really be exposed to and put into application and really enforce some of the soft skills that are part and parcel of developing what we call some core teacher graduates, those with technical skill set, but also cross-cutting with some soft skills.
Okay. I'll go back to Ben before we finish with a question for you, Shishu, and we move on. But Ben, I really wanted to sort of have a bit of an understanding of the time frame from how quickly can you deploy, and what does the process look like in simple terms?
Yeah, certainly. So we quite pride ourselves on how much we help our partners get their programs online quite quickly. In fact, Curtin University recently spoke at a conference about us as the quickest peer support deployment in the West, I think it was called. So right now we've beefed up our staff so we can work with our partners to deploy services within 2 weeks, and that's the kind of time frame that we're working on everyone that's currently deploying services through us in light of COVID.
Okay, fantastic. Shishi, just a final question for you before we move on to the next one, and that is, what's the employability credential from the Practera software? How does that look? What does it work like?
Yeah, so we work with our customers. So what that credential looks like can be a statewide credential, could be a university credential. So for example, we're in discussion with Study Queensland as the key digital provider to their employability range of programs, and they're actually employing a statewide Queensland credential on employabilities, which is cross-cutting across all the employability programs. So that can work in response to our customers, as well as micro-credentialing and e-portfolio that we've developed. But by and large, we are working with our customers to develop credentials that are meaningful to them.
And is it connected to some sort of badging platform?
It can do, and also shareable on social media, like LinkedIn.
Fantastic. All right. Okay, so thank you very much, Ben and Shishu. We're going to move on, and we're now going to hear from Gronier Oates at Quitch. Over to you, Gronier. You need to unmute first, I think. There we go. You're still muted, Gronier. Can you unmute yourself, Gronier?
Yep, I have
tried
a few times. There we go. Okay, great. So my name is Gronier Oates. I'm the CEO and founder of Quitch, and I'm also an academic at Swinburne University in Melbourne, where our product actually emerged from. We refer to Quitch as your knowledge companion in the sense that it's about consolidation and reinforcement of the primary learning. So essentially, what we wanted to do with Quitch, just having a few issues here. Bear with me. So in terms of the Quitch approach, Quitch was developed originally to be an engagement tool, so about reaching students outside of the classroom, if you like. So the students talked about, it was co-designed with students, and they talked about wanting the material to be delivered in bite-sized chunks and really making it a more entertaining, if you like, way to learning, and about the fact that often when they leave the lecture theatre, they felt that they really understood the material. But then when we push them questions directly related to what they had just learned, they often discover that they're nowhere near that level of comprehension that they initially felt that they had. It's also a fun platform, the students report, and we're very pleased to say that, especially in today's climate, we could certainly all do, I think, with a bit of fun. So the solution for the students' point of view, so we built the solution from 2 points of view, from the educators and the students' point of view. So the first thing the students said was that the solution that we built, in the first instance, it had to be mobile. So they said they wanted it to be mobile, they wanted it to be accessible 24/7. They also wanted it to be a fun experience. And I couldn't disagree that there was no reason why we should not make learning and make the approach to learning something that was enjoyable for our students. So therefore we added those elements of gamification that they are currently used to, and there was very specific things that they wanted from that. They wanted the points, the leaderboard, the badges and so on that they usually use, because they talked about getting distracted on their mobile phones, and that they said, I thought we could take what distracts them to actually engage them by adding those elements of gamification. They also wanted to get immediate actionable feedback and not have to wait until they went to class the following week. Also, with a quick look at the app, they wanted to be able to identify what are their areas of difficulty in real time. So we have, like, if you like, it's like a traffic light system. If a particular topic is highlighted in red, that indicates to you that you need to go back and work on that. On the other hand, if it's green, it kind of means you kind of blitz that area and you can move forward. Yellow, orange, you have a bit of work to do yet. From the teacher's point of view, we identify in real time who's at risk, and the idea is to offer support to those students. So I can reach out to that group. I can also identify what are the areas as a cohort that they are struggling with, so that again, I can focus on those areas in real time. So the product itself, it looks like this when you download it from the App Store. So very easy implementation. You would simply invite the student through the educator portal. They'll get an email to their Swinburne or the university email address, download the app, and they're up and running in the various subjects they've been enrolled in. It's gamified, as I mentioned, so you earn points and score on your leaderboard along the journey. The questions are timed because students said they wanted to feel under pressure. We have competitive leaderboards where you're not identified, because it was very important, especially I'll say to the females in the room, they did not want to be identified, but they talked about wanting to engage with it and compete against themselves. The guys, on the other hand, generally speaking, they did want to be identified, but you don't need to be identified. You also earn achievement badges as you go along your journey, indicating how you're succeeding. Progression analytics, students had asked for to show how they're doing compared to, for example, the class average and comparing to the group as a whole. They receive push notifications on their mobile device to let them know that new material has been unlocked. The educator's portal, it's built to be a simple process for us to add content. As educators, we are all very busy, so we want this to be an easy process. You get real-time analytics around difficult areas for your group, as well as those students who are at risk and who we suggest you reach out to. You can have multiple choice questions, fill in the blank. You can also have true and false and open-ended questions. You can push announcements out to your students' mobile device. So it might be about some assessment that's coming up. It might be to tell them about what the new regulations are around how we're going to run our classes and so on. You can also upload resources, so Vimeo, SoundCloud, YouTube. You can bulk upload your questions, and of course, it is also cloud-based. So it is secure, scalable, and highly available. The data is encrypted at rest. Our data is stored in AWS in Sydney, and we are also GDPR compliant. We have evidence to prove that it is effective in terms of learning outcomes and also retention, and we have that peer-reviewed and published. Also, a university that recently came out of the University of Otago has again proven that Quitch has quite a significant impact on outcomes for students, and that was published in the Journal of Accounting Education. CPA Australia recently have used Quitch for 18 months now, and recently again indicated that students were receiving as high in some cases as more than 10% in terms of their performance, those using Quitch versus those that don't. We have some feedback here. A number of universities across Australia and New Zealand and some globally are using Quitch. So Maddie in the University of Melbourne uses it with his engineering students. And is saying,
I'm going to ask you to wrap up soon, please.
Okay, sure. So I'll just go to, we've got the team based out of Melbourne, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
We do have some questions for you, but we'll come back to you in just a second.
Okay.
Who are you handing over to, Grania?
So I'm handing over to Jared Merlo from E2 Language. So over to you, Jared.
Thank you, Grania. You'll need to stop sharing your screen if that's okay.
There we go.
Cool, thank you. Let me just move this. Hello everyone, my name is Jared Muller. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning at E2 Language, and the people I'm speaking to here are related to English language learning, so university pathway providers and Alakos schools, etc. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to just give you a bit of background on our company, then I'm going to give you an interim solution for the problem that we're currently facing, followed by a more longer term solution that I'd like to talk to you about. So we're a software development company. We build education technology. We specialize specifically in English language learning technology. We produce B2C platforms. We also white label platforms. So everything you see, you can turn into yours, as well as apps for mobile phones. We've been around for about 10 years. We've now got 70 plus employees, 2 offices. Why I'm telling you this is just to sort of establish our credentials. We're not a flash in the pan. We've been doing this for quite a while. We're popular. We exist on the sort of outskirts of mainstream education. We actually just exist entirely on the internet. We've had about 1 million registered users on E2 Language, our test prep website, since 2015. We register about 1,000 a day now. We've got a big following on YouTube with nearly 1 million subscribers, had nearly 50 million views, and we're popular for the test prep channels. If you're in the English language industry, you'll know about NIAS. We're NIAS's first and only quality assured online English school. Our new platform, E2 School, has just been recently awarded premium product endorsement, and we're an OET premium preparation provider. We're partnered with a number of institutes, including Cambridge Box Hill Language Assessment on OET. We're partnered with Pearson Education Publishers on the PT Academic English Test. We're just beginning partnerships with several universities, including UQ and the University of Auckland. And these, I think, will turn into very good partnerships. Let me just discuss the interim short-term solution we have for your English language students. It's called e2school.com. It's a fully online self-study English language website with live teaching. It's got over 300 hours worth of top quality general English language learning from beginner to advanced, including a placement test, absolute beginner up to the advanced levels. It's got a pronunciation course, a grammar course, a vocabulary course, spelling course. And again, as I mentioned, it's supplemented with live teaching. We've decided to make this completely free for the next 3 months. So if you do have students stuck somewhere at home or overseas, get in touch with us, because what we'll do is we'll put your students onto this system, but hopefully we'll form a sort of larger relationship around digital English language learning. The proper long-term solution, though, to all of this sort of stuff for English language schools is a platform that we've built called Learning Base, that will actually help you to digitize your English language school. What it is, in effect, is a SaaS-based application, software as a service, with a very sophisticated content creation engine that will help you to digitize your existing material. It has live teaching functionalities built into it through what we're using now, Zoom. It's got a scheduler, coordinates time zones. We've done all the heavy lifting on what would otherwise be an extremely long-term project to build one of these systems. It's also got very interesting network sharing functions. So what it can do, what Learning Base can do ultimately for your Pathways program or your Alakos school, is transition it or transform it into a digital language school. It's got all of that built into it, where you can digitize your materials and teaching, and you can reach anywhere. So you might want to grab out your phone and take a photograph of this, because if you do want to get in touch for the interim solution or the long-term solution, just email me or Josh, my business partner, or you can check out our 3 websites related to English language learning online. Cool, that's all from me. I'll hand it back to David.
Oh, I should probably unmute myself before I start saying thanks very much. I think maybe I should sign up for your punctuation and pronunciation course. Actually, I might be a customer of yours, especially if it's free for 90 days. Just a reminder to any participant in the audience, if you want to ask a question, you can just pop them in the Q&A box, and we actually have a whole bunch of questions. So let me start with you, Grania. We have some questions about how does Quitch work in connection to LMSs, and maybe even specifically, can you talk about Canvas if you can?
Yes, so Quitch is a standalone, so it does not integrate with LMSs. So what we currently do is, so when people are uploading either content or their, for example, student lists, we work through CSV files and do a bulk upload, which works very well.
I've literally got heaps here. Let me jump down to something for you, Jared. We've got a question here. Is you teach live? Is that right? Can you sort of explain
correct.
how you do that?
Yeah, so we've built in, Zoom offers an API that we've built into the platform, which means that we can schedule live classes. Students can join live classes very simply. So we're not coordinating time zones or using Google Calendar or any of that. It's just click of a button.
And I've actually been to your facility in what road is it now? It's Albert Road in South Melbourne. Do you teach from there, or is the teacher remote as well?
Yeah, we've got 23 teachers dotted around the planet and different time zones teaching for us.
Hopefully they're self-isolating, right?
Yeah, they're at home. Yeah.
All right, that's good. All right, let's go back up here. Granier, can you talk about how people can take a current course that they've got? Maybe they've got it built in an LMS. Can they port that across to Quitch and how the process works?
Yeah, so what we do generally with people is that we sit with a group of, let's say, the academics in the at the university. They bring along their content on the day, and we do a workshop for 1.5 to 2 hours, and we actually get the content loaded there and then. So it's actually a very easy, straightforward process. And once it's in the system, it then can be cloned going forward, and of course allows you to edit and delete any questions or images or resources you may have. But it's essentially, once it's done once, it's an easy process to clone it across then. And
can you talk a little bit, there's sort of an interconnected conversation here, actually. There's 2 questions for you, interconnected. First one is, what sort of student interaction is there? And secondly, do you have any data that talks about the long-term outcomes, learning outcomes from gamified learning?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say, so the interaction for students, so the students talk about the fact that it's very engaging. So they simply download the app from the App Store. And the idea is that then you have created for, let's say, your 12 weeks of content, you would have created, say, for example, 7 to 10 questions. And you may also have some resources that you would prepare on a weekly basis. So we find 7 to 10 questions is a good rule of thumb. In terms of the learning outcomes on students, so our original study in 2017 showed an improved performance on students who interacted with Quitch at 7%. CPA, who recently mentioned have used Quitch, found that to be greater than 10%, almost 11%. And the University of Otago, again, had published research around the positive impact of Quitch, which was published just last month. So we do have,
Sorry, no, I thought you'd finished. Keep going, please.
No, that's okay. So I was going to say it's we do have that peer-reviewed published research that we're happy to share with anyone who'd like some further information.
And what sort of assignments can students submit? And the question specifically is around docs, PDFs, videos, audio. What can they submit?
Yeah, so the students will submit essentially answers to all of the questions that are prepared. And then so we would upload Vimeo, YouTube, and so on. And then we would tag questions to that. So that's the way the students would respond. Then all of that data is collected again in CSV files. So if you wanted to do your own research around that, all of that material is available as well.
And a final question for you, Granier, is about the project-based learning. How are you, does Quitch work in that environment for project-based learning?
So it's not really around project-based learning. It's more about engaging that student outside of the classroom with the material, with that primary learning that they've received, either whether it's, online recording or whether it's been on the face-to-face teaching. It's about essentially that follow-up and that consolidation reinforcement of the primary learning, which is what the students had originally asked for when we designed the product.
Thanks. I'll come back to you in a second. Jared, I've got a couple of questions here for you. The question really is around, do you support interactive content for students?
Yeah, so we built the platform ourselves. It's not a traditional LMS, a Canvas or a Moodle, and we built it for language learning. It's purpose built for language learning. And so therefore for language learning, it required very different activity widgets rather than the traditional sort of multiple choice type stuff. So for example, we've got AI built in there that does pronunciation evaluation and various things like that. Also, the courses that we built are interactive in that we've got the video built in, plus there's, as you're watching, you're completing activities as you watch, etc. So we thought a lot about engagement with the platform.
I will ask the question that may now be popping in people's head, because it's certainly popping in mine. And do you interact back with learning management systems that a large university or TAFE or RTO might provide?
Yeah, so we can plug in as, Learning Base can plug in as middleware. And there's also just sort of workarounds to fit into that Moodle ecosystem. So we certainly can.
Okay. Another question for you, which is really linked to what we've just talked about, and that is, do you provide extra support for students who already have sort of university level language capability?
Well, the E2 School platform sort of goes up to an advanced level, so it's still helpful for them. But I think there's a question in there about EAP, which is English for academic purposes. The answer is no, we didn't go that high. We do test prep and then sort of beginner to advanced, but not academic. But Learning Base, that purpose-built LMS we've built, that's the thing that can be used to digitize existing courseware for those types of learners.
Do you white label your product at all?
Yep, we co-brand and white label.
Beautiful. Okay. I do want to, there's a question for you, Granier, which I know the answer, but I think you should respond to everyone, and that is, how does Swinburne handle other universities' data? Just clarify the connection between you, Swinburne, and your database, I guess.
Okay, yeah, so Quitch, it started its life at Swinburne, but now it's a privately owned company. And so what we're GDPR compliant, and so essentially everybody owns their own data. And we've got all of those privacy policies and so on are online on our website.
And your data is not hosted in any Swinburne systems, or are they hosted?
It's hosted at AWS in Sydney, David.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. And I will ask the question which some people may also be thinking about, and it is that can you, either of you or both of you, service students that are on the other side of a Chinese firewall?
Yes, we can. At Quitch, we have been working with Chinese students for about 18 months now. And so what we do is we provide an APK file, which the student can download and access Quitch in that way. It works very well.
E2 School, the one that we got free for 90 days, is accessible from mainland China.
There was a question in the Q&A, which is actually not for you. It's a generic question for me, which I will answer right now. And that is, how confident are we that EdTech products can be delivered to students when there's masses of them working from home? The answer is, we don't know. We don't know whether the NBN is going to hold up. We don't know whether Telstra is going to hold up. We're going into a territory which I don't think anyone has got any disaster recovery plan for. I don't think anyone's put together a process of having a disaster recovery or business continuity plan that says 20 million Australians are going to be working from home and studying from home, watching Netflix, doing work, doing video calls. Who knows what it's going to look like? We just have to trust that there is going to be some sort of systems there. I'm personally aware of large telcos working on some really technical things to try and ensure that there's bandwidth available, but we really don't know. All right, Granier, Jared, thank you so very much. At the end, in the next 10 or 15 minutes, we'll have you back and there'll be some questions for everyone. Thanks very much, Granier. I'm now going to hand over, let me look at my thing. I'm going to hand over to Anthony from Kahoot Learning. You're muted, Anthony.
I can do that this end. Okay. I'm good at talking to myself. That should be coming through loud and clear. Look, thanks David and team, Jeanette, pulling this together and the opportunity to get on and have a chat about some of the, gosh, crazy week that it has been. But I guess I just wanted to cover quickly what Kahoot Learning is about. Look at some of the data, look at our learning model, look at the data and the outcomes that are coming from there. And I do want to talk a little bit about the last 72 hours because it's quite frankly been rather nuts, as I'm sure it has been for everyone, but certainly from what we're doing from an organisational point of view. So Kahoot, our focus is in the professional education market, so professional executive education. We've been working with industry institutions and so on right around the world over the last 10, 12 years, along with corporates and some key education institutions. Our whole model is really based around what we call relationship-based learning. And what we saw, the problem that we sought to solve right at the outset was we'd see a group of people coming in, as I said, in that professional education sort of sense, coming into a room, whether it was for a day, whether it was for a week-long program, or whether they were entering into a 3-month, 6-month course of study. What was happening more often than not, regardless of the environment, be it digital or face-to-face, is that often their experience, their knowledge, their expertise and so on was left at the door, and they'd come in and experience the content of the course and so on, but really not truly engage the community in terms of what they had to offer to that course structure. So our whole platform, our whole model is based around this concept of how we build relationship in that space. So far to date, we've had just over 1.5 million learners come through the virtual doors, 123 countries. A couple of the university partners that we work with, Stanford and MIT, and the results that we've driven out of those programs have been exceptional. The learning outcomes through our model in terms of the way that we do bring those communities together, the way that you build trust, the way you build relationship in that space, and then how you interrogate that content as a community can be extremely powerful when it's not just a technology solution, it's really a learning design solution partnering with a technology solution. So this is just a really quick little snapshot, little case study from one of our local partners, the Australian Institute of Mining and Metallurgy. Brief context of this course was a problem in the mining sector around reporting codes that they were using for stock exchanges around the world. Big problems in credibility and so on. They created a code base to try and bolster the industry right around the world on a few years ago, but there was no education structure to that. So we partnered with them last year to build an education solution for that. So far, it's a commercial course that they charge about $3,000 per head for people to come into this program. So far, 287 participants. As you can see, a global cohort, largely Australian-based, but from every continent. The data that we get out of this from a purely digital course is extraordinary. So we've got 94% completion, close to 99% recommendation score there, which is phenomenal. And it's a tough course. It's actually not a case of you turn up at the front door and on your way out you get your certificate handed to you. There's actually a really tough final exam in that course and a lot of hurdles you have to jump in through the process. So those results are really quite extraordinary. And just talking more to those results, we're looking at capability measurement across that cohort. So from start to finish, within the sector, there were 8 key capabilities that they were saying this is what we need to see within this cohort in terms of their ability to deliver on this code base at the end of it. So they were tracked and measured throughout the course from start to finish, and you can see here, significant uplift in each one of those 8 capability areas. And we're talking about 6 weeks here in terms of the start to go. But the real gems for me in terms of the data is this data sitting over on the right-hand side of the screen here. So we've got 7,500 discussion posts from this community of 280 odd people. That's just user-based generation. So we're talking 133 a day coming in from that group in terms of the way that they're engaging. But the most astonishing piece of that data for me is this 47,000 views. So this is people who we can see they're dipping in and out on average 3 times a day, and they're doing it on their phones, they're doing it on tablets and laptops and so on, where they're just keeping in touch with these conversation threads, not necessarily posting, but they're keeping their line of sight into all the different discussion topics and so on that are going on there. So it's just a little bit of an insight into when you do create trust, when you create relationship in a digital environment, that it's an incredibly powerful way of building community, and the way that we then interrogate that content as a community. So that's a little bit of an insight into what we're doing. Look, the last 3 days has been phenomenal. It's just a little example of what's gone on this week. We've working with the Institute of Company Directors, repurposing a 5-day residential part of their directors course. It's now going to be 70 live digital events through April and May that we're repurposing as we speak. Austrade, they had a 3-day residential from a group coming around the world coming into Canberra that was due in to land next week. We're now working with them to stand up a 4-week digital course experience for that global community. It's going to start early April. Law Institute of Victoria came to us. We just confirmed that this was just done at lunchtime today. I said, we've got a full day face-to-face conference happening, 3 streams on Friday at the Sofitel in Melbourne. What can you do? It has to be done this Friday. We can't spread this over a week or something, or 2 weeks. It all has to happen Friday. A bunch of other calls. We've got Rio Tinto we're working with at the moment on a conference program that they've just had to shelve. CSIRO, Administrative Appeals Tribunal, International Auditors, all this today.
Anthony?
Yep, I'll just wrap up right now and put that up.
There you go. Perfect. All right, we'll come back to you in a second, mate. If you can, we're handing over now to Derek, I think, right? Derek at Janison.
We are. I'll just stop sharing my screen. And there we go.
There you go. So I think you're going to have, can you hear me? You're going to have to start my video because I think it's just been disabled. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So just let me share my screen. So just as an introduction, my name is Derek Welsh. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Janison Assessment. Janison is a business that's been around for almost 20 years now. We're well known for our sort of learning systems. We've got a platform called Janison Academy, and we've got a platform called Janison Insights. And today, I mean, and just to talk to some of the points that Anthony's just made, today, you know, this week, really, there's been a whole lot of change, you know, particularly in regards to what's going on with the virus and the sort of people expediting their digital transformation programs. This environment for us is an area, for example, this is our goal, is to transform the way we assess learners. So assessments are more efficient, more effective and secure. This particular scenario everybody's used to. And we as an organization are also used to this because we actually own an exam management services business that's used by Charles Stewart, Monash and Deakin. And so this is an area that we believe that we can transform this process from being a paper-based, delivered in large scale events to an online experience. And we have a lot of experience doing that. Just to talk to some of our experiences globally, as I said, the business itself, we listed the business just over 2 years ago, and now we deliver education digital solutions to about 100 different countries. And we do that primarily with partnering with organizations, various institutions, including universities around the world, including OECD. We do a lot of testing for them, with the PISA-based testing for schools. And for UNSW Global, we deliver about 1 million tests for them online through their ICAS and their student tests all around Asia. So for us, it's been explosive growth. We sort of consider ourselves as sort of a platform provider. We provide the plumbing that enables institutions to actually deliver anywhere in the world. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that. We break our business into multiple streams, multiple verticals. And I know we heard from sort of the language side of things earlier on. So essentially we have a platform that's designed to be able to deliver language testing pretty much in any country globally. We partner with the British Council and IDP in Cambridge on delivering language testing. And we do that both here, we do it in 100 different countries around the world. And I'll talk a little bit about the technology that enables us to deliver, particularly in low, no bandwidth areas, which is really our speciality. In the school sector, we're known particularly locally here because we're the platform provider that delivers NAPLAN. So we deliver to huge concurrencies every year. So we can deliver sort of 400,000 plus concurrent exams at any given time. And so therefore we have huge flexibility in where we deploy and the scale we can deliver it. From a university's perspective, as I said before, we already provide examination management services to over half of the universities in Australia. And really by having that knowledge of how that's delivered and the kind of integrity in the invigilation experience, the integrity in the experience, particularly in that movement to online, we think we are the best position to take those currently paper-based delivered exams and put them online. And finally, on the certifications, we work with all our certification bodies. We deliver the CFA, for example, in Australia to sort of over 5,000 people at any given sitting. But we also deliver all driver's license testing for New South Wales. So scale is something we do natively. And how we do that is we have a multi-staged approach. Our platform itself, once again, we know that in order to deliver an effective digital assessment strategy or a digital exam strategy, there's key people we need to deal with within any organization. So we deal with the authoring team. We've got over 50 different tests, question types that we can use, interactions that can be used to simulate a more authentic assessment experience. And delivery is all about our technology and how we can deliver in low, no bandwidth areas, which is really important in the current climate. And I'll talk to that in a second. Marking is all about really around quality control. How do we insert, if we talk about digital marking and removing a paper, how do we ensure we use the technology to ensure that we have a continuous and quality control in delivering a marking and the results? In the results, it's really about extracting those results and passing them through to either for calibration sessions within your student management systems or within your learning management system. And then finally, test analysis is really about psychometric capabilities that we have to analyze the integrity of your test experience and to understand, trialing new items and those sort of things. So how we do it is really important. This lockdown experience is really just about, we can lock down pretty much any device. And in a BYOD environment, which is mostly the higher ed sector at the moment, you download our app, which is a replay app, and then you will be able to lock out pretty much them from doing anything else, search the internet and creating essentially a kiosk on that computer. And the value in our application is that it's completely resilient. You actually don't need the internet to take an exam on our device. And this is why we were able to deploy it in so many countries. In Colombia, in China, behind the firewall, once again, it's a very low touch point, but we can create that experience. And how we do it remotely is that we have proctoring capabilities. So if you want to deliver a digital exam experience remotely, we have resilience built into our replay application, which means the lockdown application, but we also have an online proctoring capability, which enables you to deliver an exam in the comfort of the student's home. And that's why we combine those two technologies. Remote is an AI-assisted incident tracking system, which is used to look for, dodgy behavior behind the scenes. It's also a native app like our replay lockdown browser, which means that in order to be able to...
We might ask you to wrap up, actually.
Yeah, sure, it's okay, no problem.
No, you can wrap up just to finish the point.
Yeah, and so just finally, the AI assisted enables us to be able to pre-record a video. It also enables us to store that video locally. And once that video gets stored locally, once the internet is resumed, we can upload that video and it's parsed by an AI engine to look for dodgy behavior. So.
All right, thanks, mate. I much appreciate it. If you can stop sharing your screen, I'll ask, I think we'll ask Anthony if you come back, and we'll let me find you somewhere here, sorry. There we go.
Yeah, that should be good. I think I'm good to go.
Yep, we are. You are. We've got you. So we've got a bunch of questions for you before we ask all the panelists come. So again, I remind people who've got questions, if you can just drop your questions in the Q&A, it would really help if you put the name of the product you wanted to ask the question to or the person. So we'll try and find those as we go. All right, so let me go back to some questions here at the top. Just give me a minute or two, because there's quite a few bumping in here. Anthony, each of your programs, I think you mentioned, were custom designed for the customer. So what's the sort of time frame to get your system up and running, say for a university or a TAFE or an RTO that needs to get something up and running potentially within the next few weeks?
Yes, if you ask me right now today, let me see. Look, generally it varies depending on what state the course is currently in, if it exists at all. If it doesn't exist and we're talking right back to draft stage, obviously we're talking a few months to get together around that. If it's a course that exists, you've got content around that course. One example, we had Rio Tinto come to us last year in a bit of a panic saying, we've got this course we're about to roll out, but actually all we've got is video content. We actually don't have a course, it's just content. We worked with them on that, on the design structure, how we're actually going to get the learning components out of that content, and we stood that up in 10 days, and we delivered it out through their network around the world in that time frame. So depends on the motivation, the desire, and really importantly, just what shape that particular course is currently in. So we work with you at all levels, so we can build them right from the ground up, right from scratch, or we can actually work with what we've got and reshape it and form it. The important thing is around the design. We're working with crew out of Stanford at the moment around some of their content. Video content's fantastic, but how we then actually create an experiential sort of process out of that is the key. So, you know, a couple of weeks in that process to get it up and running.
And again, because we're in the same area, so I just want to ask you a follow-up to that. And then do you want to talk about group assignment work in Kahoot and how it actually operates?
Yeah, sure. Actually, that sort of cohort structure is really important. So thanks for a good question. The way that we work is that we bring together small communities. When I say small communities, we find that the optimum community in a digital space is around 40 to 50 people in a cohort. Big enough to create a really good, diverse cross-section of people coming in there, not big enough that people can get lost or hide away in there. And then to get scale, we can stack cohorts. So we can stack multiple cohorts up till we can stagger them. But we find that cohort works well, and then we can interrogate that course content as a community in a whole range of different ways. There might be some individual work that people have to do in isolation. There we can break out into small teams where we might have a project that runs throughout the course. A program we're running with Austrade at the moment has a team element around strengths, around a leadership program, which the same team dips into every module throughout the course. So they're with the whole cohort, then they come together for this project with their team, then they're back in the whole cohort, then they're in their team. So there's a whole range of ways that we can break that up, and
the
depending on what the learning
manages
outcome
that.
is. Yeah.
And there is one other final question I have for you in the same vein, which is what about interaction post-course? Do you see any of that stuff happening?
Well, post-course, given the cohort model, we have a start date, we have an end date. But what we do at the end date, so it shuts down in terms of all activity, assignments have to be due and completed, all that type of thing. At the end date, though, we go into an archive mode, and that means the learners actually have access into that course for a further 12 months, 24 months, depending on what the provider wants to provide access to. So they can obviously retain all the whatever they built as a cohort in there, they've got access to all that. The provider might shut down the content from an IP protection point of view, but it's all open for discussion. So there's that sort of archive mode that people then can retain access to ongoing indefinitely.
Thanks, Anthony. I'm sure we'll come back to you in a second. Derek, we have got a lot of questions about online invigilation or proctoring, whichever one you like to use. I don't know which is the technically correct term. I go with proctoring because I make sure that I don't have
it depends if you're talking to Americans or not, right? So it's one of those things.
So am I pretending to be British or American by saying proctoring?
Proctoring is an American term. So invigilation is usually used as a term for the people who stand at the front of the room, old school English terminology.
We can have that conversation offline. Let's talk about how you guys do it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we have 700 invigilators already on the books, or our casual invigilators. And we actually do that because we provide burst capacity already for the universities. We also leverage
face-to-face. That's real life.
But we leverage the same invigilators to deliver the online proctoring. So for us, the integrity of the system is about the capabilities of the proctoring, which is video surveillance and AI-assisted video surveillance, but also around the quality control of those incidents. So for live proctoring, we'll use our own invigilators as opposed to people overseas. And so for us, once again, it's just the levels of integrity required to deliver certain high stakes scenarios.
So let me just make sure I understand something, Derek. Let me jump in for a second. Let me make sure I understand this. I'm sitting here right now, and you can deliver me an exam. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and if I understood correctly, your platform's currently doing that for X number of students, but I don't want to put the number because I may have got it wrong. So I have a big number in my mind, but I just want to make sure that I've got the right stat out of what you said.
Yeah, so currently the proctoring platform does it for millions of students. Okay. And so for us, we combine that with our digital assessment platform. So our digital assessment platform, which is the standalone platform for delivering assessments. We deliver 5 million assessments in that every year.
I think you're breaking up at your end. I'm just looking at Anthony because he's also on this. Is that right? Is Derek breaking up, or is it just at my end?
Yeah, I think Derek's on the computer audio connection, which I think is causing a bit of grief.
Okay. All right. Hopefully we'll get you a more stable internet connection as we continue on with the conversation.
Maybe if I just get rid of the video, that might help.
Yeah. All right. Let me just go back here. Question for you again, Derek, was do you think that you're going to have some Australian universities this semester? Are you going to move onto this online proctoring?
So we've been inundated with requests for how we can take universities online in a very quick way. Currently, obviously, we already deliver digital assessment platforms inside of China for the likes of the British Council to do English language testing. But really, it's the proctoring component that is really been in high demand. They're looking to proctor their own content, and so really, what we're looking is to decouple those services. And so, how do we proctor content that might already exist in a learning management system?
Okay, fantastic. And I just got two other quick questions on that. They're very much connected. Before we ask the rest of the panel to join us for the last couple of minutes. Do you provide plug-in test options for other platforms? Can the exam be customized? And then finally, how do you manage or sort of deal with assessment bias with different assessors with the same exam?
Those are all really good questions. Yeah, we do provide, we have a sort of 50 different types of questions that could be used with essays, multiple choice. For the driver's license test, we have hazard perception tests. It's a video that you interact with. So we have a myriad of options for creating exams online. And in regards to delivery and bias, that's a really interesting question. At the moment, we sort of do, it's all or none. We tend not to do hybrid scenarios for the same academic criticism, which is that they're not the same experience. But I think at the moment, because of the nature of the current circumstances, people are sort of saying, how can we deliver in any way? And never mind about whether or not it's paper versus online. And so really for us, the differentiator in our technology, particularly in delivering in remote areas and in to international students, is I'm having problems with the NBN. So I'm trying to connect via the mobile phone at the moment, hence why we're having problems. But our technology is all designed to be asynchronous, which means that the candidate will continue to do their tests, and it doesn't require to have a high definition internet connection. And so that's the value. And I'll give you an example. It's just in Russia, we've just delivered to 100,000 students using USB sticks because the network quality wasn't good enough to deliver in Russia. So,
wow.
So there's just an example of the practicalities of delivering digital and online solutions.
Okay, fantastic. We've got sort of the rest of the panel going to be joining us now. I think we have Derek, you can, you're back. Okay, fantastic. I've got some generic questions. I'm going to ask the first one up front for everyone. At some point you want to ask, which, and that is that somebody here has asked, E2 languages offered a free trial. People are asking what other free trials might exist to de-risk purchase for them. So you don't need to answer that right now, but just be conscious that people are going to ask you about that. So if you want to, actually, if you want to, I'm more than happy to take your response. Anthony, I'll go and ask you. Anthony?
Sure. Well, we're actually talking about looking at offering something in the resilience space as an actual course for people at the moment. We're busy working on that as opposed to the platform solution, but the end solution is something that we're looking at trying to stand up at the moment quickly.
Okay, fantastic. Ben?
So what we'll do is we'll, during this period, we'll really decrease the amount of time required that would typically take for implementation. So essentially, we'll surround you with more staff than ever during this time. But yeah, we won't be doing any free programs.
Cool. Thanks. Grania.
Yeah, probably not free programs at this stage either, but we can certainly look and have a chat with people and see where they're at.
Thanks, Grania. I think we've had your answer, Jared. You're in the middle of my screen. I'll jump you. Shishi?
Yeah, we've always worked quite flexibly with our customers and are happy to, one, be flexible, and second, include free trials, and third, be rapidly deployed with our customers as well, which we're quite known for.
Fantastic. And Derek?
Yeah, we've got a university partner program, so we're really looking for people who want to expedite their digital journey. And so we're happy to offer authoring services and discount license prices. You know, if certain universities want to reach out to me, I'm happy to take them across that partner program.
Fantastic. And the other question I have, which are all very similar, and that is if you have and I probably should have asked you at the same time, sorry, and that is, do you have an online demo of the product that people can play with? I'll go back to you, Anthony.
Sure. We actually don't. We've got a sandpit sort of environment, but we actually don't use it. We find it doesn't work. Okay. We're much better. We're happy to sort of do a one-on-one, actually take you through the platform, show you through how it works, sit there and talk through questions and options and so on. Much more effective.
Ben?
Similar to Anthony, so as we are that human-to-human interaction, it really makes sense to have someone on both sides. So we'll do an online session with you, and we'll really demo that out.
Great. Grania?
Yeah, we do have some demos available, and we can do an online session, and then we can open it up to someone to have a go at creating their own class and have a bit of a play in there, which would be exactly the experience they would have if they came on as a customer. So yes, we can offer that.
Cool. Jared?
Yes, you can sign up for a free trial and check it out.
We actually got another question for you too, Jared, just while we're here, and that is, do you have any data that shows a sort of an acceleration of English language capability, say specifically on, like, I think it was the IELTS test was the one that was specifically asked about?
Yeah, I mean, we've got tens of thousands of testimonials of people who have had poor scores and then had great scores, as our platform being the intervention. In terms of quantitative data, we don't have that. Okay,
qualitative. Okay. I think Shishi was asking you, the question we were asking every panelist before I segued was, do you have an online demo of your platform?
Yeah, so people who are interested can go to go.practera.com, which contains 30 plus off-the-shelf templates which they can play with. In addition to, of course, we can give people sandpit options to play and build with, or they can come and talk to me, and we can do, as the other panelists have referred to, one-on-one sessions and free discussions online to discuss with our team.
And I think actually you demonstrated very much the sort of consulting model that you use to build experiential learning. I assume that you can also deliver WIL as well, right? Work integrated learning units, yeah?
Absolutely, that's our WIL.
And they can be done online, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. And Derek, final thing for you, do you have a sandpit that people can play in?
Yeah, we tend to not to have sandpits, mostly because really it's a platform. So ultimately we require content to make it come alive. So for us, it's really just about taking paper-based assessments and making them come alive using digital delivery. So happy for people to send them through. Yeah.
So I'd like to thank everybody that's been here today. I'd like to thank all of our panelists. I will just share my screen. Let me just get the right one and click share. And just as a reminder that EduGrowth exists because of the leadership and visions shown by these 6 entities, Charles Sturt, Deakin, Griffith, Latrobe, Monash and Navitas, who came together to fund EduGrowth a couple of years ago and continue to support us. And it's really these people who helped us bring together this vision that Australia can be a leader in the EdTech sector globally, and we can take Australian education to students where they are and when they want it. They don't have to necessarily come online or come on shore. And I think, as you would all probably be very aware, that is a evolving market right now. So thank you, every one of our panelists, and thank you all of our attendees. Thanks very much.
Thank you, bye.